I didn't play the Half-Life games when it was released, mainly because I wasn't even born yet. And when the second game was released, my attention was elsewhere. As a kid from the early 2000s with my brother, the games that I played were mainly PlayStation 2 games with 2-player supports, meaning games such as GTA San Andreas, FIFA, Tekken, Dragonball, WWE games, and many more. Now, depending on who you ask, those games are nowhere in the same level as Half-Life with the exception of Tekken and GTA probably, but here's the thing. When you were a kid, you wanted those flashy, bombastic games that you can play with your friends or family. So back then, single-player games were never my field of view. Flash forward to the 2010s, I have finally, after all those times, played Counter-Strike and Team Fortress 2, which derived from Half-Life actually. You know, as a teenager from the 2010s, you need to understand that I have to follow what my friends were playing or else I'd be an outcast. Well, and eventually I did. Flash forward to the mid until the end of the 2010s, I have finally played some single-player games. During those times, I've tried some games from Ubisoft, Bethesda, some famous indie games from Software, and many more. Out of those games, some of them are video games made by Valve, and it was Portal 2. It is actually my second favorite Valve game because my number one favorite was the game that I've tried afterwards. Now, most people held the second game to a very high regard, and rarely would anyone talk about the first game because it was really weird. The first Half-Life was brutal and unforgiving, which is a stark contrast compared to the second game, which is generally more accessible to any player. Part of the reason that made this game such a pain to finish was probably its deceiving design. I have a feeling that the developers were having a really fun time to troll the players when they developed this game. The player character Gordon Freeman moves as if he's a character from Doom, so agile and quick, but the thing is, you are not meant to play this game like Doom. Most of the time you have to play this game slowly and methodically. You need to think first and act later, and the game will gladly punish you if you do it the other way around. The first weapon that you received was the crowbar, and it made you think that this weapon was a sort of high-risk, high-reward kind of weapon like Counter-Strike, when in reality, the crowbar was mainly used for breaking boxes, solving puzzles, and as a last resort to kill something without wasting bullets. A huge aspect of the game is solving physics-based puzzle, but the thing is, the dedicated interaction button, or the E button, was only used to press buttons and interact with some friendly NPCs. This isn't like Half-Life 2 where there is a dedicated button and even a dedicated weapon to interact with some object. In the first game, you can only interact with the objects by pushing them with the movement buttons. The enemies and the world itself make you stay on guard at all times. I don't think I've ever played anything other than this game that made me feel paranoid from the start of the game. There are moments where I thought I was in control of the situation and the game said, nah, here's some Vortigaunt ambush. The Vortigaunts in this game left such a huge scar in me, to the point where I got PTSD by simply seeing one in the second game. But of all those things, those are simply a setup to prepare the player for the real game. Honor Rail and Surface Tension, just to name a few, are probably the most notorious chapters in the game, but even they pale compared to Interloper. This place is a nightmare on my first playthrough. It was filled with the worst enemies in the game that were blended very well in the environment. To top it all off, because the layout of the map was so hard to comprehend, you basically need to figure out a way to progress through the level while also figure out a strategy to clear out the enemies on the spot. This was also the chapter that made me realize why the auto aim button was turned on by default. Those descriptions about this game made you think that I completely despise it with all my heart, but it was actually the complete opposite. I can name very few games that can be this creative and interesting with such a simple mechanic. Remember, this game is fundamentally just a first-person shooter, It ain't supposed to be special, yet it is. Half-Life was created during a time when developers were trying out some new and weird things. Many video games that would be the foundation of many classics was born during this era. Half-Life was no exception to this, and I may be bold by saying this, but I do think that it still stands out even to the current standards. Don't get me wrong, the game is very flawed. I can't recall how many times I need to reload because I probably broke something. You can also argue that some of the chapters are just straight up bad design, especially Interloper. I ain't denying that. In most other games, once you get the gist of it, you can usually play on autopilot. This is actually what I experienced with Half-Life 2 on my first playthrough. I feel that I was on autopilot most of the time, but never the first game. And I think that was what made it so much special to me. Thank you for watching.